Oh, you're welcome. I'm a little bit discombobulated, so just let me get organized here. I think I solved my problem with my computer. So I'm very pleased that it wasn't me forgetting what I was doing. It was a setting on my computer that didn't ask me whether I wanted to erase something. It just erased it as I clicked on it. So it's nice that it's not me going nuts. Okay. Who else we got here? Our group is getting smaller. How many students are doing the Russian end of things?
Let me just check so I can check in the Telegram. There is a Russian group. And is the Russian one? Yes. So there are 20 people in the Russian group.
Well, that's good. So I am reaching a few people. Okay, let's start with the mandala. So if you make the mudra for the mandala, please. Here is the great earth filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four continents, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryataya Me. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create, from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, I will attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. Okay. Let's do some rejoicing. Jackie, what do you have to rejoice about?
I have to rejoice to be here firstly with you all. It's really special, grateful to be here, and to have had success with being able to throw things in a skip to be able to help clean up the garage.
Wow, how exciting. Well, I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
That's a great thing for your future karma ripening. And wow, that's exciting. That makes my day. Wow. Good for you. Okay. As they would say in your neck of the woods, good on you. Okay. I think they say that. I don't know if they still say that. That's what they were saying when I was there. Oh my God. I was there in 1968. So that's 58 years ago. 50. Wow. Oh,
and if I can add something else as well, we were able to share some furniture, find someone to help, a removalist that was able to gift their time, and we were able to share something to a dear community that has just secured themselves. Basically, they're going to be soon moving into a home after being homeless. So we've been able to give them some things.
Good. That's great. That's great. Well, that's going to be hard to top. Natalia, what do you have to rejoice about?
Yeah, definitely hard to top this. So what, few days ago, I went to a walk. I was on a walk in the park near us, and I was thinking about Buddha and finding a teacher in our teachings, and I saw and I wanted to see a sign, and then I saw an older Indian person with dressed with longer robes. He wasn't a Buddhist, but when he approached me, when we were getting closer, he just greeted me like this. So I thought it as I took it as a sign. So I'm very happy about this.
That's exactly what you're looking for. That's a sign no matter what.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, who's out? Svetlana, how about you?
Hello, thank you, Venerable Sumati. I would like to rejoice that today I did my meditation practice with some preliminaries, and the rest of the day was quite productive and quite happy. I had quite happy state of mind. So I like rejoice in my morning practice to make it habitual.
Good for you. That always cheers me up when I get my practice done as I want. I was up pretty early and got to bed pretty late last night, so I still have my practice to do this evening, but I'm going to do it. Okay, Sheila. Where'd Sheila go?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm rejoiced that I am purified bad seeds because my tooth hurts me. All the bad karma to hurt another person, I am purifying right now because I have my tooth hurts me, my molar.
No, that's too bad.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but you're right. You're purifying something.
Yes.
So don't be mad at it. Just be glad that you're purifying
Yes.
something. Very good. Katya, what do you have?
Hi. Well, I rejoice that on Friday I went to visit my teacher's yoga. She's 86 years old and she's a little bit sick. So I went the afternoon, all the afternoon, spend the time with her.
Very good. 83 and doing yoga. Wow. I'm 70 and I don't do yoga. Anyway. Okay, I think that's everybody on my, no, Tatiana. Hi, Becky.
Добрый вечер всем. Я хочу порадоваться тому, что у меня сын с ДЦП, и я сегодня
Son with special abilities, and I led him to the massage and was managed to locate him in the car and in a special carriage. And I managed to transport him to this special massage procedure. Yeah, so as my son with special abilities, and you no sound, you don't hear in English?
Just switch to the English channel.
English channel, maybe. Nope.
Sorry.
Now do you hear
Yeah.
sound? Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. So Tatiana was rejoicing that she managed to transport her son to the massage because her son with special abilities like DCP, like special physical mental abilities, and she managed to take a car to put her son into special carriage and transport her son to the massage procedure, and she's rejoicing in it that she managed it.
Very good, very good. Yevgeny, there you are. You have something to rejoice in, Yevgeny?
Yes. Да, я очень хочу порадоваться
Yes,
тому.
I would like to rejoice that our classes are resumed, and I was waiting them very much, and people from Russian-speaking community also were waiting it, and I'm sorry glad that I can connect with this wisdom and more think about emptiness of everything that I'm perceiving and of everything that is happening around, and I'm creating it and I want to change it.
Very good. Well, I do apologize for missing class last week. I had computer problems and I've now solved them, so shouldn't happen again. Oh, I'm the only one left. Well, I've got a lot to rejoice about. My computer problem isn't a problem with me forgetting that I deleted something. It has to do with a setting that I apparently changed. So I fixed that. And I also found a program that may allow me to recover the lost files. So I'm looking forward to checking that out this evening. I had a visit with my neurology doctor yesterday. They're a little concerned about some memory issues, so we're going to do some testing, but it won't happen until the summer because the people that are doing the testing are booked through July. So I'm looking forward to getting that done. I've decreased the medication. Oh, I'm swinging my arms. One of the telltale signs of Parkinson's is you don't swing your arms, and when you walk. And I'm back to swinging my arms. So I'm not sure that means my Parkinson's is going away, but it might. But it's an improvement. So I rejoice in that. The background, this is where I stayed. Let me move out of the way so you can see the whole. This is where we stayed the first 2 nights in Malaysia last May when we were there. A beautiful house with 2 huge ponds and just a wonderful, lots of good memories. Okay, so we're going to go over kind of a mixture of things today. So bear with me and we'll get through it. So the 7 traditional, the meditation posture of Vairocana, it's there are 7 components and then an 8th one that we add. So this is how you get ready to sit for meditation. Let me just move this over to the right location on my computer. Your legs, they should be in a comfortable position which will not cause you pain for the length of your meditation. It doesn't matter if you're in a chair, against a wall, extending your legs, half lotus, whatever. The idea is to experiment with your posture, with your legs. It doesn't matter which one you take, but once you set up, you shouldn't move your legs again or try not to. This full lotus is wonderful, but if you're focusing on the pain in your foot or your knees, it's your sit's not going to be very productive. I got into full lotus once during 3-year retreat. It was very nice. It wasn't so much painful as it was just uncomfortable. And so I decided not to work on doing that every sit. So you get comfortable. It can be in a chair, obviously, floor. If you have a cushion, you should elevate your rear end up a little bit higher than your knees. So that's a little easier to sit and be comfortable. Next is your eyes. They should be closed completely. Normally when we do that, they can be closed completely. Normally when we do that, we tend to fall asleep. For my meditation, I do have a problem that we're going to try and figure out. I've started waking up, finding myself falling asleep and not knowing it. Then I wake up in front of my computer. So we are trying to figure out a way to monitor that to see how long I'm asleep. And we realized that I can set my Zoom onto record, and I can have a video of me during the time I'm teaching, or not teaching, when I'm working on my class notes, and that should allow me to see when I fall asleep and how long I fall asleep for. So that's going to be an interesting use of Zoom. What else? Oh, I'm the cook in the family, and last night my wife made me very happy. She came in and thanked me for a wonderful meal that was as good as any restaurant she's been to in Tucson. So that was very high praise, and I was happy that I made her happy with a good meal. For those of you that are interested, it was roasted green chilies with roasted pieces of sweet potato, olives, a little bit of cheese. What else did I put in there? What else did I put in there? Oh, Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts, as does she. So that was nice to have she compliments me usually on the meals, but she went out of her way to thank me, and I appreciate that. Okay, here we go. Oh, back to the eyes can be closed completely. It's a tradition to have the eyes half open and gazing down. I find that's distracting for me because my eyes try and pick out the pattern in the floor or the rug. So I have my eyes closed. The tendency is to drop your whole head. So keep your chin level and the eyes down or closed. Your spine should be like a stack of coins. The vertebrae should be stacked like coins. The vertebrae are curved, but it should feel like it's stacked straight up. The idea for a great meditation is a straight back. One thing I do to imagine that, because my posture is not as good as it used to be because of my Parkinson's, I imagine a string tied to my crown, and I lift myself up, and that straightens my back. Instead of being down like this, I'm up like this. So that's something to think about. Your shoulders should be equal. They shouldn't be one side or the other. I have a bit of a problem with that because of my Parkinson's on my left side. This shoulder tends to be down, so I have to focus my attention on being up. Now you can see I'm not level. There we are. That's better. Chin should be parallel to the floor. If you tip your head back too far, the mind will become restless. If you tilt your head too far forward, you will get sleepy and dullness. You want to keep the head erect on the neck, head up and level. So I have a tendency to be down like this. I need to be back like this. So I'm not forward. I'm on my neck and over my shoulders. The teeth should not be clenched, but relaxed. Leave them the way they normally are. Leave them the way they fall naturally. The tongue should be, there's a trick that I use that Geshe Michael taught us. Touch the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth, just behind the teeth. And that keeps the mouth from getting too dry or having too much saliva. So that's a 7-point posture. The eighth point that we use is breath. And so we watch our breath for usually I try and remember to do 2 rounds of 10. You count to 10. And I'm trying to get my students to count their breath and try and get it to be below 12. So if you can get it down to 5 or 6, per minute, the normal is around 12. I think you'll find your meditation is better because you're focusing on changing your breathing. What was I going to say about? Oh yeah, don't hold your breath. So you breathe in. So you breathe in for a count of 10, hold it for 10, and breathe out for a count of 10. We don't count. We usually count faster than a second. So maybe start with counting. Well, I tell you what, because of the modern technology of cell phones, let me just get my cell phone up. And I'm going to start a stopwatch. Okay, so if I breathe in, let's try that again. If I breathe in for a slow count, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I do that for in, I hold my breath for that, and I inhale, I exhale with 5, I hold my breath for a count of 5, and I inhale with count of 5. That's about 6 to 8 seconds. So if you can do that, if it's 6 seconds, you'll be down to 10 breaths per minute. And if you can do 8 seconds, you'll be down to even less. No, you'd be down to more. So what you want to do is have your breath be about 10 seconds or so for the complete breath. And that just takes a little bit of, use a stopwatch before you sit to meditate. Just try and get the feeling of breathing. So you're out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So try that. I recommend just before you sit down to meditate, sometime during the day for a couple of days, just get used to breathing more slowly with a timer. And then when you sit down to meditate, you'll have a better feel for what you need, what that feels like and what you need to do. Okay, so we're going to cover quite a bit of material. So let's get started. What happened? Well, I need to get this back on my screen. There we are. So again, to review, legs are placed in a comfortable position. Most desirable is full lotus. But if it's distracting, something that's comfortable, you don't want to try meditating laying down because that's pretty much a guarantee you'll fall asleep. The eyes should be left loosely unfocused at the plane of the nose. I find that quite distracting. I just close my eyes. The body, meaning the back, should be completely straight. And you do that by pretending there's a string in your crown and you're pulling yourself up. The shoulders should be level. That's pretty straightforward. The hands can be in the traditional mudra or a gesture meditation. I usually put my hands out on my knees. I don't do this because you're not supposed to be touching. You're supposed to have a little bit of a gap. I don't do that. I just have my hands out like this. That's just me. I'm not saying you have to do that. That's just how I do it. The head should be looking straight ahead, not tilted back or bent down. I find myself drifting to this, and so don't jerk back up. If you find yourself down like that, slowly bring yourself back up to the posture you know you should have. Teeth and lips should be left loosely in their natural position. The tongue should be slightly touching the upper palate. The 8 components of breathing we talked about. Try and get your breathing down to 5 or 6 breaths per minute, complete breaths per minute. If you can't, that's okay. It's just, I find it's very nice if you can slow your breathing down. Okay. So very briefly, we're going to go over 3 types of meditation. Jokgom is putting your mind on an object and holding it there. That's what we usually think of meditation. Chegom is meditating on a problem. So if someone is bothering you at work and you can't get over it, they're criticizing you. So where did they come from? They came from your karma for having disturbed other people. So you ask yourself questions about how that could have happened in the past and how you might be doing that in the present. And that's what's going to make your future, because you remember the past is equal, makes the present, and the present makes the future. So how you acted in the past is what's creating your present, and how you respond to the different things that happen in your present is what's creating your future. So you have to be careful, and that's what a Qigong meditation would be. Shargam is where you think of, example would be where you think of all the reasons you don't like somebody. I use the Shargam I use for recitation of and memorizing. So for the source of all my good, that's a Shargam for me, because I analyze each of the phrases, the verses, as I repeat them, or I go through the rooms. So we're teaching that, let's see, this week is the 24th. We're teaching that next weekend. So if you're interested in learning a really beautiful meditation on the source of all my good, I highly encourage you to join us in the course. It'll start at 7 p.m. Arizona time, which I believe, unfortunately, is 5 a.m. in Moscow. But it could be worse. It could be 2 or 3 a.m. So 5 a.m. isn't that bad. I get up at 5 a.m. twice. I get up at 4 a.m. twice a week. So I can get up, you can get up. Okay. Another type of meditation is the Mahamudra tradition of meditation. The object there is the mind itself. The nice thing about the mind is it's always with you. You don't have to worry about memorizing anything. I find the Mahamudra meditation to be difficult for me because my mind's wandering so much. I don't have so much trouble with my mind wandering if I'm doing an analytical meditation, like the source of all my good or the 3 principal paths, or going over my white Tara sadhana. But if I'm thinking about the 6 flavors of emptiness, I go to sleep pretty easily. Bumka Rinpoche mentioned a phenomenon where we first learn to meditate. It feels as if our mind is getting substantially worse. How does he explain this? Well, when we start meditating, we turn on our watchful state of mind, and we're suddenly aware of just how busy our mind is. And that's what we're fighting to overcome. And that's one of the reasons we're meditating, is to stop that, what they call the monkey mind, the mind that's, if you look at monkeys in a cage or out in the forest, rainforest, they're dashing around everywhere. So the monkey mind is flitting between objects and subjects and thoughts like what's for lunch or what's for breakfast. I don't really think about food that much. What distracts me? If I'm writing a book, I will get distracted as to what I need to do next. I don't get so much distracted of what I need to do next around the house because I'm retired. Doesn't matter if I get to it today or tomorrow. Well, it does matter if my wife specifically asked me to do something. I need to do it. But yeah, that's right. She asked me to vacuum and I didn't yesterday. Uh-oh. Oh, well. Okay. We'll go through the Mahamudra meditation more in later classes. Let me scan down to what's next in my list of things I wanted to talk about. Oh, Pabonka Rinpoche discusses emptiness in two sections. The fact that a person is not themselves as a whole, nor are they the parts of a person are not themselves. It is said that when we first perceive emptiness directly, we see our own personal emptiness. The first emptiness that you ever see directly is the fact that you is not you. That is, you're not the person that you thought you were. Then later on, you apply what you learned to the parts of you, your mind, your body, and the world of which you are a part. It is said that when we first are learning about emptiness in an intellectual way, we do better if we deal first with the emptiness of some object other than ourselves. For example, Geshe uses the example of a metal pot on the stove for making hot water for tea. This is because we're too close to ourselves on a day-to-day basis to really be objective when we examine who we are. Our study on how we are different than what we always thought we were is itself divided into two parts. The first concerns getting to the point where we directly perceive our own emptiness within a state of perfect meditation. Then there's the aftermath, which is what happens after direct perception of emptiness. And that may continue on and off for the next 24 hours. We reach a higher level of intellectual understanding about emptiness for both ourselves and other objects, along with the high realizations triggered by the direct perception of emptiness. To reach the direct perception of emptiness, it takes, well, there's a metaphor that Pabonka Rinpoche uses about the two wings of a bird. If a bird has one wing, they can't fly, obviously. They just circle around on the ground and get nowhere. So our journey to enlightenment is best described as being the same. We will need two wings, one of which is called method, and the other which is called wisdom. So when we do our dedication, the dedication we often use, by the goodness of what I've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So wisdom's referring to meditation and seeing the direct perception of emptiness, but you can't do that if you don't have enough merit, which is the collection of virtue. So you need to do both. We can think of method as the actions that we take to help others and the love which inspires these actions. A classic example of these actions would be patience that we demonstrate for people that irritate us. The patience could be felt either with or without an understanding of where the complaining person in our life is coming from. If we simply force ourselves to be patient and to suppress our anger, that's okay. But that patience will sooner or later break down. If we, however, have an understanding of the deeper nature of the person who irritates us, then our patience simply tightens down harder the more they complain. This is because we have reached an intimate understanding of how they're complaining is in fact coming from ourselves. The more they complain, the more we examine our own life and try to detect moments in the day when we ourselves are complaining. The worse they become, the better we become. We're not only being patient, we are patient with understanding. 2 wings instead of just 1. When we understand and fully believe that the irritating people, the problems in our life are coming from our own complaining, our own actions, we're never going to be the same. We are, as Geshe puts it, cursed, because now there's no excuse. So there's a fine line between complaining and expressing an opinion. I try hard to not complain, and I try very hard to make sure my opinion is short and sweet and to the point, and doesn't mention any people by name. Because the minute you start complaining about someone by name, that'll spread amongst the Sangha, and all of a sudden the person's hearing third hand that Sumati thought they were doing something wrong. If I think you're doing something wrong, the correct thing for me to do, if I feel it's important enough to talk to you about, is to go up and talk to you. Not in amongst a bunch of friends, not when you're talking to Geshe Michael, but find a time at the meeting or the class where you can take the teacher aside gently and make your comment. My mom was very good about disciplining. We had 5 children. I was the oldest boy, and we had, she did not discipline us in public or in front of our friends, but we got the look. I don't know if your mom or dad had the look, but my mom would give us the look, and we knew we were going to be punished in whatever form when we got home. So if you're going to correct somebody, do it in private. Don't do it in front of a bunch of other people. That embarrasses them, embarrasses you, and embarrasses not only the person you're correcting, but it could possibly embarrass the students that are sitting there wondering why they have to be there to see this. So that's something else to consider. So there are different types of emptiness. Lord Buddha taught 3 different versions of emptiness, and what we focus our attention on is the highest of the different forms that Lord Buddha taught, the consequence or prasangika group. We need to describe the unique feature of this school as being their understanding of the relationship between dependent origination and emptiness. Dependent origination in this context refers to the fact that our mind overlays pictures over pieces of objects, unifying them into things around us at any given time. These pictures are born from seeds which we have planted in our own mind by the way of our movement of the mind, the way we've treated others in our life. Now that seems to me to imply there's something out there to overlay on. And the way I get around that is I think of my karma ripens, then I see it. So I'm Geshe is saying we think the objects, the pen or the whatever is coming at us. And the fact that it can't be coming at us is because a dog sees something different than I do. So if it's coming at us, the dog would have to see the pen the same way I do. So if it's coming from us to the object, he's saying we overlay something like the pen onto an object that's out there. But how did the object get out there? I think you project the object, then you project the label. So Geshe says, the world around us is like a blank white screen. This is the real meaning of emptiness. The pictures that come out of the seeds in our mind are projected onto this empty screen, and we make objects out of random clues of objects. This helps us picture correctly the relationship between dependent origination and emptiness. Pictures projected onto a white screen. In a very real sense, then, the essence of the pictures is provided by the screen, and the point of the screen is provided by the pictures. Each defines the other. They are different sides of the same coin. I like that analogy. You can't have a coin without two sides to it. That's not counting the edge, the thickness. We won't go there. But the two sides of the coin. You can't teach karma without teaching emptiness. You should never teach emptiness without teaching karma. It's incomplete. It's potentially very frustrating to a student. So if you're going to start teaching someone, let's say for just 5 minutes, you're going to have to put a little bit of now I'm lost my thought. Oh. If you're going to teach emptiness, you have to teach dependent origination. You have to teach karma, cause and effect. I like to teach, if I'm teaching karma and emptiness, I will teach the how and the why, the past, the present, and the future. Your karma so, not karma, your karma but. I do all that when I teach karma, for karma and emptiness, because that teaches both sides of the coin. I think thoroughly enough that my students will go away from the class thinking about the two sides of the coin. So let's review that. The past is your present. Your deeds in the past are what create your present. Your present creates your future. But one thing you have to remember with that analogy is your past is many, many past lives. So there's many, many, many karmas to ripen in your present life. So unless you do some karmic deed to a very powerful karmic object, there's a good chance that what you do in this life what you did in the past life won't all ripen in this life. You have thousands, billion, well, at least probably billions of lifetimes before. So you've got a lot of karma to ripen in this life. But if you do something in this life to a powerful enough karmic object, your parents, your spouse, your children, your teacher, anybody you see, because they could be a high-level bodhisattva, then you're increasing the chance it'll ripen in this lifetime. But it might not. And we tend to want the good karma to ripen in this lifetime and the bad karma to not ripen quickly. But you can't have it both ways. If you want karma to speed up and get your results sooner, then you need to make sure you're not inconveniencing somebody else. So the how and the why, the how the aspirin works, when it works, is because of the salicylic acid, salicylate that's the active, from a old school way of thinking about, that's the active agent. The reason it works or doesn't work is if you provided pain relief or medicine for somebody else. So the way I try and remember when I take my medication is I rejoice in all the times I help somebody else with their medication or feeling better. And I hope that when I take the pills, that they'll do the same for me. Geshe calls that activating them, giving them a little more juice. So that comes back to the explanation we were working on a couple of classes ago about aspirin. all aspirin tablets have approximately the same amount of the active ingredient in them. But if you take them one day and they don't work, and the next day they do, does that mean the ingredient's gone in those particular pills? Or does that mean you didn't have the karma necessary to have them work, to have the pill work? Most of us probably have the karma necessary to do that. But if you don't, there's one way to solve that problem. And that is simply rejoice in others being able to get what they need when they need it. And that's how anything works with cause and effect. Does it have to be medicine? I'm of the opinion that it just has to help somebody. Medicine working for me is helping me. So if I go work very hard at helping other people, even in the most mundane of circumstances, then I'm setting the seeds in my opinion, I'm setting the seeds for other things to work, such as medicine. Okay, let's see. What else do I want to say? Oh, there are three great figures in the lineage of our teachings on emptiness. Let's go through them. Arya Nagarjuna, that was his name. That's where the term Arya came from. He lived about 200 AD. And he is renowned for having perceived emptiness directly. His root text on wisdom, which is called Root Text on Wisdom, is considered a masterpiece of brevity and final insight. It is a masterpiece, but it's very hard to understand. I've attended some of my wife's classes on Arya Nagarjuna, and my head spins after those classes. It's really difficult. Doesn't mean you shouldn't take them. It's good mental exercise. But boy, he just doesn't come out and say it very clearly. He really works very hard to make you come to conclusions. That's not the easiest way I learn, but that's how my wife's teaching it, so that's how I'm trying to learn it. Master Chandra Kirti lived in about 650 AD, so approximately 400 years later. His most famous work on emptiness is in Entering the Middle Way, an explanation of Arya Nagarjuna's root text, which cleaned up misunderstanding about the thing was cleaned up misunderstandings about Nagarjuna's root text. That's been the basis of teaching on emptiness throughout Tibet for the last 1,000 years. Then Geshe Michael came along, wrote Illumination of the True Thought, a massive work which explains in detail the meaning of Master Chandra Kirti's work and thus Arya Nagarjuna's work. This is the basis of the presentation which Geshe Michael gave in his own masterpiece on the steps of the path, and thus is the basis for our own here in this text. One of the classical proofs that Pabonka Rinpoche mentions in support of the idea of emptiness is called the reasoning of the seven choices. So Pabonka Rinpoche asks, what's the basic paradox that this reasoning is built upon, and how does that apply to emptiness in a variety of ways? The basic paradox here is that we cannot recognize what an object is unless our eyes first scan the area of the object to detect a number of details that would serve to identify the object. So what they're saying is, if you're looking at my eyes, you can't be looking at my shoulders, you can't be looking at my chest, you can't be looking at my leg. So you need to scan over whatever you're looking at. You can't recognize what an object is unless your eyes first scan the area of the object to detect a number of details that would serve to identify the object. In the case of a pot on a stove, for example, we would need to see one thing suggesting a handle, if it's a coffee pot, another suggesting the circular top of the pot, another suggesting the bottom of the pot, before we could identify it as a coffee pot or as a saucepan. That seems pretty obvious, but it's the obvious things that we need to understand how subtly we're saying it's not true or it's not important. If we're looking at the parts, though, we can't look at the whole, so we can't really say we're seeing a pot. Something happens within the mind to make us think we're seeing an entire pot, when in reality we are not. The mind chooses arbitrarily, in a way, to lump suggestions that we get into a discrete object. So it seems like that's kind of silly. But if you really stop and think about it, what we consider to be the handle of a pot is somewhere for a fly to land if they're flying around the house. They have no idea what a handle of a pot's for. So we have to keep in mind that we are identifying and labeling things, and that's because it's coming from us to the object, not the other way around. So what happens is your mind has compelled us to synthesize a pot. We're actually observing a tiny image of the pot in the back of our mind, overlaid with the indicators which we saw. This tiny image is produced when a karmic seed opens in the mind. Now, I have trouble with this because, again, it seems to me, and I know he's not, and I haven't been able to reconcile this, and I hope through studying with all of you, we'll finally find an answer to this in the next couple of teachings, because it's really bugging me. But he talks about overlaying something on something that's already there. And I just don't understand what the already there is. Because that would tend to, the way he says it tends to make me think it's self-existent, which we know it can't be. Nothing in this world is self-existent. It may be massive. Maybe having 600, 700 million people be part of the sustainable living, but we have to be careful. So if I'm projecting a small picture that's the karmic seed ripening onto this data that's out there and labeling it, how does the data get out there? And the way I reconcile that is I say to myself, and I've checked this with Lama Christie, what my wife and I say is our karma ripens, then you see it. So my karma ripened, and then I see it. But that's just kind of a brushing aside the fact that there's data out there that I'm organizing, and then I'm labeling it. That's got to be in my mind. That's got to be how it works. But where's that data come from that I'm organizing? Am I projecting it? I have to be, because it can't be self-existent. If it was out there independent of my thinking about it, then it would be there independent of a cause, and it couldn't have the effect of being data that I can label, because it would never, when I label it, the data changes. And so it can't be self-existent. So that's a conundrum I'm still working on. So another question we need to discuss is the meaning of the word gotcha. Not got you, gotcha. That's a Tibetan word for something that's not self-existent. We think is self-existent. So the word gaksha means that which is denied or canceled. That is the thing which emptiness is empty of. It's important to remember that this is the thing which never did exist, never will exist, never could exist. Something like a two-headed purple elephant. Master Shantideva says in a very famous quotation, until we encounter the thing that emptiness is empty of, we'll never be able to understand how it never existed at all. We are surrounded constantly by things we think we see, by gotchas, and they are the cause of our suffering. Say that we have a favorite song, we play it for others and get upset if they don't like it. This happens to me quite often with my wife. There's a movie called The Mission, has some really beautiful music in it, but she thinks it's like a dog wailing in the night, and I think it's really beautiful. So it's the same music, I think, but it's perceived by two people differently. And that's what's causing our suffering, this idea of these things are self-existent. If I have favorite music and someone doesn't like it, the degree to with which we gets upset shows that how much we're thinking of the favorite song that exists from its own side. The favorite song that really does exist is the one which is coming from me because I said sweet things to others in the past. I thanked people for doing things for me. I thank them for being so careful to please me. That's what creates the music that I like. Since once we realize the song is coming from us, we shouldn't feel upset that others don't see that it's the best song in the world. What's an example of that for me? Well, that music from The Mission. It's the movie is quite intense, and it's about two missionaries. Liam Neeson is one of his first films. Jeremy Irons, likewise. Very intense film, but the music I thought was absolutely beautiful. Another example of the gotcha is when someone blames us for a problem that we had nothing to do with. When someone seems to blame us unjustly, we begin to get angry, we defend ourselves. We defend a gotcha version of ourselves because we've forgotten that even if we are blamed for something we haven't done, we have been blamed justly. We have put seeds in our mind for being blamed by blaming someone else in the past. In summary, we can say that every time we feel upset or overly desirous of something, we're focusing on the gotcha or a non-existent version of that thing, since we are obviously forgetting that it has come from ourselves. So I had an experience, I probably mentioned this before, but it's particularly telling for me. I did a lot of things around Diamond Mountain that made life easier for a lot of people, and I'm proud of that, and I'm happy I did it. That's what I was there for. But often Geshe Michael in class would thank somebody else for something I did. And almost invariably, every time he did that, he'd be looking straight at me to see how I'd react. And I knew what I had done to help build the retreat center. As much as I will admit, it was nice to get thanks for the work that I'd done. It wasn't, he knew I'd done it, I knew I'd done it, Lama Christie knew I'd done it. So whether anybody else knew was really not that important. But often he'd make a big deal with somebody else, and that just felt diminishing to me. But I knew he knew that I needed to have that said so he could react and I could see myself whether I reacted with anger or disappointment or just said, I can deal with it. So that happened pretty early in Diamond Mountain, and I dealt with it almost, I'd say 99% of the time. What was the phrase? I came up with the phrase. What was it? Let me stop what I'm doing in my copious quantities of spare time. Let me help you. And copious quantities of spare time was a joke because I had very little spare time when I was building Diamond Mountain Retreat Center. I got up early and came home late. I'm not sure how I managed to get dinner for my wife on time, but I did. But what he'd do is in class, he would say to somebody, and I wanted to thank, in this case, Ted. I want to thank Ted for this, that, or the other. And I'd just say to myself, wait a minute. Ted didn't do that. I did. And I would look up and Geshe would be looking at me to see how I reacted. And as I said earlier, I think I reacted with wisdom each time. What are the 4 different phrases used for the idea of emptiness? And what is the flavor of each of them? The 4 different phrases used as the same for emptiness are not real, not having a quality of its own, not existing from its own side, and not self-standing. So let's repeat that. The 4 different phrases used as the same as emptiness are not real, not having any quality of its own, not existing from its own side, and not self-standing. Not real refers to the fact that objects are not what we thought they were. They are deceptive or false, as opposed to real or true. So when you say it's not real, we're not saying it's not there. It's that we're saying it's not there the way we think it is. No quality of its own means that nothing has in it any quality of at all. Our favorite song has nothing in it that makes it the most beautiful song. If it did, everyone in the world would see that things are empty and they would hear it that way. And there wouldn't be any problems in the world. But Monk Rinpoche describes not existing from its own side as meaning that the existence of things depends on things other than them. This refers specifically, we know, to the fact that things are being synthesized by our own mind, tying parts of other things together to form something new. According to the pictures popping forth from our mental seeds. That is, basically, nothing is coming from outside in, it's coming from our side out. Not self-standing means that the objects in our world cannot stand on their own. Doesn't mean they're falling down. It means that just because I see something as pretty, I could see the Eiffel Tower as being wonderfully beautiful and I'm wanting to go up into it. But somebody else might not think of that at all. So it's not existing from its own side as being something we all want to do. It has to do with our karma ripening and laying a label on that structure. The idea of self. There are 3 ways of looking at self in the sense of myself, and to what extent does such a wrong idea of self spreads in the world. Master Chandrakirti, in the 400 verses of Master Aryadeva, show the meaning of the self in the sense of the gacha. something that could exist from its own side without having to rely on any other factor, something that could stand on its own accord, not depending or relying upon anything else. We know, of course, that this would ultimately mean something that did not rely on a projection from our mind and forced on us by seeds of our own past deeds. So Pabonka Rinpoche mentioned 3 different ways we can view ourselves, or me. A person who's familiar with the idea of emptiness does perceive themselves as me, but realizes that this is a me which is projected by seeds in their mind. Those who have yet to see emptiness directly, but whose views are not infected by any particular school of philosophy, perceive a me, but it's without distinguishing whether it comes from or exists through any nature of its own or not. The third type of person has consciously asked themselves the question whether or not the me is me from its own side, and believes that it is. That the way they perceive their own mind and body cannot be coming from them. Pabonka Rinpoche is careful to say that the misperception of who myself is exists within each and every living being, down to insects, and thus causes all the problems that we have today. Number 5, if things and people around us are all coming from our own mind, how does this affect whether they work, whether they can do things or not? The question often arises whether or not things which are products of our mind can still work. Whether, for example, an aspirin can take away a headache if it's coming from us. Only on a beginning level, we can say that yes, things work, even though they're coming from us. We know, for example, the power of an aspirin to take our headache away obviously doesn't rely within the aspirin. If it did, then every time we took an aspirin, our headache would go away. We realize then that what imbues the aspirin with the power to take our headache away are the seeds within our own mind. Seeds that were planted when we helped someone else who had a headache, or we helped someone else do something they really needed to do. Because for my wife, if she gets one of her migraines, she just can't do anything. The only time I've ever had a headache that I think even begins to possibly feel like a migraine, I had played golf. I hadn't drunk enough water, so I had a beer at the clubhouse before I came home. When I got home, my head was splitting. I had a really bad headache, which I don't usually get, at least back then. So, like an idiot, I went out for a jog because often that would make a headache go away. Well, I was starting to jog. We lived right next to a cross-country course. So I got changed and went out to jog. And after about 20 steps, I was holding my head like this because I thought my head was going to explode. I really thought my head was going to explode. And I went and laid down and fell asleep. And when I woke up, everything was fine. But if that's the kind of headache my wife suffered for many years, I don't know how she put up with me. I didn't even know she got headaches until about 15 years ago. So let's see, we've been married 48. So she was 33? Nah. Well, that makes about right. I had no clue. She kept it that perfectly from me. I just don't know how she did it. I really don't. That's one thing I did not inherit from any of my family that I'm aware of. Okay, what's next here? Well, I think I think that's good. I think we'll leave it at that. Okay. Any questions? I know this is a lot. It's pretty intense, but that's why we made the recording so you can listen to it again. And this isn't the last time you'll hear about this. It's a common theme throughout the Lam Rim Chenmo, because we're going to apply our understanding of emptiness to the various parts of the Lam Rim of our path to total enlightenment. Okay. So, dedication. O Gurus, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, O Tara, Mother of us all, please listen what I say now, what I now say from the depths of my heart. Watch over Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the land of snow, he who of one taste with Avalokiteshvara, guide him and protect him that he may live long to bring liberation to his people and the Dharma to all sentient beings. May all his goals and wishes be achieved. Through this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the source of benefit and goodness, the Dharma, spread and expand. May the beings upholding the Dharma have excellent health. May the source of happiness and well-being for all embodied beings, the Dharma taught by the Buddhas, always increase. May the merit of my life and my practice be for the benefit of all my students, that they may reach their enlightenment in this very lifetime. Thank you for the opportunity to teach you. Look forward to seeing everybody. Today is Tuesday on, I think Natalia is next week, isn't this Friday our last class? Where'd she go? My gosh. Well, we'll find out and I'll talk to you about it on Friday. Okay. Have a good rest of the week and we'll see you Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.